All eyes are on Brunswick, Georgia, as the murder trial in the death of Ahmaud Arbery gets off to a very slow start. And, you know, we impatient. Now we got attorney Glennon Threatt is joining us this morning to break down what's the holdup and why the case even had the judge up in arms the other day. Glennon, good morning.
Good morning, Rickey, and good morning to your radio audience.
All right, Glennon, so you're going to be covering the Ahmaud Arbery case for us.
That's wonderful, Rickey. This is an extraordinarily interesting case, and a lot of people are confused and bewildered as to why it's taking so long to pick a jury in this case. Well, consider this. There are only 85,000 people in Glenn County. They called 1,000 of them as potential jurors. Most of those people have already said that they have some knowledge about the case, meaning they've seen the video or they know somebody who's associated with it. And it's very difficult to find a juror that can admittedly be impartial because the defense lawyers particularly are looking for jurors that have not already made a preconceived determination of whether or not the defendants are guilty or not. And if you look at that video, it's difficult to not make a determination as to whether or not you think they're guilty. I know I wouldn't be a good juror. You probably wouldn't be either.
So what happens if they cannot agree on a jury, in time for the trial?
Well, they will have to agree on a jury because that's a constitutional right that the defendants have. But if they can't find a jury out of the eligible jurors in Glenn County, then they'll have to go outside the county to find jurors, which would be an unusual procedure.
Yeah, and Glennon, I was going to ask you about that change of venue thing, but overall, what would you think makes a good candidate for a juror in a case like this?
I think it depends on whether you're prosecuting or on the defense side. You know, I've been a defense lawyer most of my career, but I think a good juror is a juror that's going to be fair and one that hadn't already made up his or her mind as to whether or not the defendants are guilty. And like I said, because the video has been so widely distributed, when you look at that video, it's very difficult not to have an opinion one way or the other.
Now the defense main point in the case is certainly an old law that allows citizens arrest if they have the suspicion that a felony is taking place. Could this hold up in court for the defense, you think?
Well, they used it to get out when they were initially arrested, if you remember, but that's an 1863 law that basically allowed for the extrajudicial detention of black men. I think like between 1888 and there were about 570-something black men lynched in Georgia.
What?
And that law was one of the law. Yeah, it was between 1882 and 1968. 531 lynchings occurred in the state. Man. And what happened is that citizens arrest law was used to allow gangs of white people to deem themselves to be law enforcement officers and serve as judge, jury, and executioner of black men. And that was legitimized by this law, which allowed them to determine that these people had committed felonies and then impose a sentence of death on them. And so the law was in effect at the time Mr. Arbery was killed, but it was repealed by the Georgia legislature and Governor Kemp last year.
We're talking to attorney Glennon Threatt. You just mentioned something that kind of bothers me a little bit. How can we make sure that more of these outdated laws are amended? Like, can we do anything about that?
Well, we're trying to do it in some states. We still have stuff in the Constitution of Alabama, where I live, that recognizes slavery and segregation. So some of these old state constitutions are still cluttered with these racist laws. And, we have to be involved in our local politics in order to try to get that stuff out of these constitutions. But what ordinarily happens with constitutions is that they amend them. They don't delete language.
Oh, wow. Well, Glennon, man, thank you so much. And you're going to be checking in with us every time there's a change in the case and keeping everybody updated because we are following that case really close. Glennon, let everybody know how you can be reached.
You can reach me at G3 on Twitter.
All right, G3 on Twitter.
Thank you, Rickey, and thanks to the radio audience.
Appreciate you, Glennon.
Radio audience.
What did you say, Rod?
Thanks to the radio audience. G3.
Right, easy.
My knees.
Member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Go ahead, Glennon. Go on, shout out your yo's.
Noobs.